Welcome to my channel where I discuss everything I love about my favorite books. For today, I thought it'd be fun to list off and chat a little bit about the 16 series that I'm in the middle of. That sounds like a big number, and I agree that it is a big number, but I am pretty diligent about finishing series. I just happen to have a lot of them ongoing at the same time. Part of the reason why is because a lot of these are pretty long series. They are 10 to 17 to 41 books long in some cases. So yeah, I thought it'd be fun to go over them so you get a sense of my reading tastes and also have an idea of what type of books you might expect that I'll chat about in the near future. So starting off with the Dresden Files. This is, I believe, a 17 book long series about Harry Dresden, wizard for hire. And the first book is Full Moon. I am currently on, well, I've finished 6 books. The next one that I would pick up would be Deadbeat, which is the 7th book. I listen to these on audio and I average about one every 2 months or so, although I am feeling the urge to pick them up more frequently now. I think the plot is getting more interesting, and I'm really enjoying the series, so I think I'll continue on, maybe finish the series, but around one every 2 months is the average. The next one is the Memoirs of Lady Trent, which is a fantasy of manners about a female natural historian who has to face a lot of social pressure and restrictions on what women can do in her time, and goes on to become a natural historian. It is written by from her. It's written as a biography. When she is an old woman and looking back on her life, she has right now in her old age inspired many women to follow in her footsteps, and so she's putting down her memoirs about how she became a natural historian of dragons and this intrepid explorer who I guess studied dragons and inspired a lot of women to do so as well. I've read 1 book in the series, really enjoying it. Second book is The Tropic of Serpents, which I will pick up at some point in the next few months. As a side note, I was very amused when I found out that fantasy of manners is a subgenre of fantasy, and apparently it's one that I really enjoy because I read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell and really loved that, and that one's by Susanna Clarke, and also the Temeraire series by Naomi Novik, which is also considered fantasy of manners. Loved both of those book and series, and I am really enjoying this one as well. The third series that I'm in the middle of is the Malazan Book of the Fallen. I am currently reading the 8th book, which is Stole the Hounds, and this is one of my favorite series of all times. The third book is my favorite so far, The Memories of Ice, but I think Stole the Hounds is looking like it might just take over as the favorite in the series. I started this series back in late 2020 and I'm reading it slowly, maybe 1 book every 3 or 4 months, so I think it'll be a while before I finish it, and when I do, I plan to pick up other books by Steven Erikson as well as the other series in the world by Ian Esselmont as well. The 4th series is the Lady Astronaut series by Mary Robinette Kowal. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I think it's got 3 books out so far, and the 4th book is to be released later this year or next year, I think. And it is a science fiction series set in an alternate history where an extinction event happens in the 60s, and then humans have to go populate other planets and the moon so that we can survive the extinction event that happened on Earth. And so due to the time, women becoming astronauts would be very difficult. So this book is about how some women get past all the restrictions and so on to become astronauts, and it's got a lot of it. that part of the plot is very interesting, as well as just the science fiction aspects of it, of like the space travel and the description of the extinction event and so on. I think those are very well written, and I really enjoy the series as well. The next one is the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers. This one is also science fiction. It has, I believe it's a completed series with 4 books, and each one is pretty much a standalone novel. They are all in the same series, I believe, because it's the same world, and characters in the first book are related to the main characters in other books, but other than that they don't really have much context that carries over from book to book, so you could in theory read each book in the series as a standalone. This is also a series that I'm really enjoying. The books are cozy and there's not a lot of action that happens, but there's a lot of interesting questions asked around what makes a person, and just finding family and friendships that define you, and it's just a very feel-good sort of science fiction series that I'm really enjoying. The next one is Fractured Fables by Alex E. Harrow, and the first one in this series is a Spindle Splintered, and the second one has been out for a few months now, I think, and that one's called A Mirror Mended. It's basically fixing fairy tales so that bad things don't happen to the protagonist, I believe. So a Spindle Splintered, I think, tries to prevent Sleeping Beauty from falling asleep for 100 years. I'm not entirely sure what A Mirror Mended is about, but I do plan to get to it at some point, because I did rather enjoy a Spindle Splintered. The next one is An Ember in the Ashes. That one is by Saba Tahir, and it's got 4 books. It's a completed series as well. I have read the first book, plan to read the second one in the near future. I think when I finish Toll the Hounds, that's probably what I'll pick up next. And then it's got 2 more books that I have to pick up afterwards. I believe it is a fantasy series. I believe it's centered around a rebellion that brings down an evil empire. At least that's the sense I got so far from the first book, but I'm unsure. Maybe it'll surprise me and go in a completely different direction. Maybe it'll turn out to be a slice of life fantasy, but who am I kidding? It's probably going to be a rebellion bringing down an evil empire. So yeah, that's one I plan to continue soon. And then there's Discworld by Terry Pratchett. So I started Discworld before I discovered BookTube and any of the popular videos around this series. So I didn't know to not read from the beginning, so I just started from the beginning, but I enjoyed it enough to continue, and I'm really loving the books. I have technically finished 5 books in the series. The next one I was supposed to pick up was Pyramids, but then I found out that Penguin was redoing all the audiobooks, and I decided to wait for the audio for Pyramids and continue the rest of the series in audio. Pyramids audiobook the new one hasn't been released yet. I believe it's coming out either in February or April of 2023. So meanwhile, I decided that I will listen to the first 5 books again, because I listened to some samples and they were so excellent. I wanted to experience the books again in audio. So I have sort of restarted the series. I'm listening currently to The Color of Magic, and that one's done brilliantly. I'm really happy with my decision to re-listen to everything in audio. Colin Morgan's done a fantastic job. The voice of death is excellent. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And I heard a sample of the audiobook for Weird Sisters, which I think is the 5th book in the series, in publication order. And that one's Indra Varma's done the Witches series of Discworld, and she is phenomenal. I highly recommend checking her out if you're interested in if you're interested in trying out any of the Discworld audiobooks. And I'm really enjoying Colin Morgan, who did the Rincewind sub-series as well. So that's everything that I have a book to read and like, series that I haven't caught up on, or series that are completed that I'm working my way through. The remaining are all series that I've read a few books in, and I'm all caught up to, and the next book is yet to be released. So among those are Great Cities by N.K. Jemisin. I read and really enjoyed The City We Became. The next one that's going to be out in November, I think, is The World We Make. I intend to read that when it's out. The other one is Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This one was a very fun, I think, YA fantasy, and I enjoyed the first book, and I do plan to pick up the second book, which is The Dragon's Promise. Both Great Cities and this one, Six Crimson Cranes, I believe, are duologies. So yeah, when I read those books, I will have completed the series. The next one is The Legendborn Cycle by Tracy Dion. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And the first book in the series was Legendborn. The one that's going to be out soon, again I think in November, is going to be called Bloodmarked. And this one, the series is not a retelling really, I think it's an adaptation of the Arthurian tale, and I really enjoyed it, and it explored some really complex subjects as well, that I thought it did very well and in a rather nuanced way. So I really enjoyed this, and I do plan on continuing the series. And then the next one is the Mistborn Era 2 series that Brandon Sanderson is releasing later this year, The Lost Metal. I've read all of Mistborn, the first era, and then I'm all caught up to the second era as well. I listened to those on audio last year, and I think I remember enough that I can just pick up the fourth book. If not, I'll maybe re-listen to Era 2 when I pick up this book later this year. And then the last one is the Burning series by Evan Winter. The first one is The Rage of Dragons. I loved that book. I thought it was fantastic, and I'm all caught up in the series. I read the second one, which is called The Fires of Vengeance, and I can't wait for the third one to be out soon, and I do plan to pick it up when it's out. So those are all the series that I'm in the middle of. Are you reading any of these? Are there any recommendations you have for me based on the series that I mentioned here? Let me know. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.